welcome back to the only podcast that works 100% of the time, 50% of the time when you try it, 85% of the time. I'm Travis, and of course, Jen is here with me. Hello, Jen.
And here we are.
Here we are, as we are every week. And I think this time we're going to do something a little different. A lot of times we do our little Q&As where we answer your emails, and we still love those. But this week we're going to just talk about a sentiment that we see within the community. And I kind of understand it because in some ways there's a little bit of truth to it. And I think that's what makes it so difficult. And that is, does YouTube hate your channel and your videos?
Yes.
You're not
Podcast
completely
is
untrue.
over. Yes.
Yeah, podcast over. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the next episode. Just kidding. No. So it's interesting because I feel like with subjects like this and myths like this, because we've done a myth busting episode, we should probably do another one at some point.
Ooh.
There's always a tinge of truth that makes it difficult to just dismiss it outright. And
yes.
that is what's going on here, Jen.
That's how just conspiracy theories start. I mean, we could take this anywhere. We'll keep it on YouTube. But that's how it starts. Like there's a little bit of truth, but then a lot of people run with it. And now we don't know if it's true or we just want to blame someone.
Yeah.
YouTube gets a lot of blame.
It's easy to blame something that's something else or someone else.
Yes.
It is hard to blame yourself at times. I did all the research. My thumbnail's the best. And how many times have you seen, and I know you've seen this a bunch of times because we see it in our emails, my thumbnails are great. My title is great. My video content is great. Why isn't YouTube showing it to more people?
Yep.
And sometimes that's true. Sometimes, and we've done a little game show thing on the main channel where we took, two different videos and one obviously you would think would get more views and it didn't. Sometimes that's the case. But a lot of times when we see that, and especially when we used to do the channel audits on the main vidIQ channel, we would go to those channels and I'm like, you haven't done anything that we've been telling you should do to grow your channel, and you're confused.
It's tough because it's really, it's hard to see a lot of the times if you're applying the things properly.
Yeah.
Like we give out so much advice, we give out so much information, and it's like you think you're doing it right. And it's really hard to see that like you're possibly, maybe probably not.
Listen, it happens to all of us. And
I'm not saying I'm excluded. It's the hardest thing to look in on your channel.
Yes.
That's why I look at other people's channels.
I'm glad you said this because this is exactly what I was going to say next. It's totally true. So Jen and I have been coaching an enormous amount of channels over the past, if we combine all of our stuff over many years, thousands upon thousands of creators. And I have no problem looking at a random YouTube channel and giving them the best advice possible to help grow their channel.
So true.
And it works so often. But for myself, let me tell you.
Let me tell you.
Let me first start off by talking about, I want to say that we did this in the Mythbuster episode a while back, but the whole concept of YouTube coaches. So, I want to be clear about something. I know that there is a bit of a meta out there that like YouTube coaches aren't necessary and all this other jazz, and that they're scam artists or rip-off artists or whatever. Let me first start off by saying that in almost every type of community of anything, there are rip-off artists and scam artists. That does exist, right? So again, there's a little bit of truth behind everything. Having said that, the thing that I think is really interesting and really kind of funny is when people say, well, what size is their channel? How can they tell me anything? All right, let me break this down for you very fast because I'm gonna destroy this argument in like 2 seconds. And I'm going to keep myself out of it. I have over 100,000 subscriber channels, so I don't have to worry about anyone trying to push back on me. But that's regardless. If this was true, then in regular sports, all the head coaches that have won world championships who've never set foot on the playing field or the basketball court or the baseball field would never be able to win world championships as coaches. Sure, you have world-class athletes there, but that's literally what it is. You're the athlete, we're the coach for you to get you to the championship. Just because that coach maybe has never played at a professional level doesn't mean they don't know how to win at a professional level. One has nothing to do with the other.
That's good. That's really good stuff there, Travis.
Some of y'all people out there are wild. You're just wild with that.
It's funny, though. It's like the same struggle. I literally messaged one of our coaches this morning. It was like, hey, I need a new strategy for this video series. I was like, I need a new title structure that's going to hit like so hard because it's not. Yeah. It's not working. And like, it is so hard to see what you're doing on your channel. You need someone to come in with fresh eyes, and you need someone to kind of like give you the hard truth and be like, oh no, you're not actually doing what you think you're doing. Like, your videos actually are not for the same audience at all. Your videos are like, you're going to a restaurant and you're offering like a paleo, a vegan meal, and like a carnivore diet every few days and expecting the same people to come back and want to eat there again. And then they show up and they're like, oh, I thought you had a vegan dish. And they're like, oh, no. That was like 2 weeks ago. We'll see when that comes back.
Yeah, may never come back.
Exactly. So it's really hard to see when you're doing stuff like that. But then you just blame YouTube.
Right.
And I've blamed YouTube.
To circle back,
I will still blame YouTube. Like, I'm not going to hide that. I'm not going to say I'm not going to blame YouTube. I just know that it's actually not YouTube.
Yeah, to circle back, that's what this is all about. So I went into the coaching just to be able to explain that, like, sometimes people from the outside can see what's going on a lot easier than the people from the inside, even if you are a, quote, expert in this field. And all that to say that YouTube doesn't have the time or space or ability to, quote, hate your channel. What it does is it follows the audience. If the audience hates your channel, if the audience is indifferent to your channel, which is probably worse, I would argue audience indifference is worse than audience hate when it comes to the performance of a video.
Oh, yes. I'm going to support that.
Yeah.
I think you should have like real polarizing, like very
thoughts.
Extremes. Yes.
Yeah. One of the things that my friend told me when I was first, he has a successful YouTube channel. And I remember when I was first starting out, we would strategize over titles. And that's why it became a passion of mine, titles for videos. And one of the things that he always dug needle in my brain is that, like, have an opinion, have a strong opinion. So rather than something like, how do you know if this or why this happens? It's more like, this happened because this. And those strong opinions tend to get clicks because people want to understand, like, well, why are you so certain about this thing that may not have certainty? Or subversively, if you're saying something that's against the grain of what everyone else thinks.
It's true. You want to because I'm going to click either way. I'm going to hate watch it or I'm going to like watch it. But you got my curiosity. I need to know, like, what are you talking about?
Like, if we made a video, if we changed the title of this video to why candy corn is the perfect health food, I would hate watch this.
Wait, I want to change this episode. Before we got on to record, Travis was telling me about Starbucks' secret menu. Which is like, I can confidently say the last person in the world who I think is like studying and going to Starbucks ordering secret menu items.
It's because I was sick. That's why. It's the only reason I even know about that. It's because I was sick. It's called a medicine ball, y'all, for those y'all out there.
Go to your local Starbucks, order a medicine ball today.
That's for a medicine ball.
It's only going to be $9.99.
Oh, jeez, it might be. I don't know. Jeez. I just don't look at the price anymore. Anyway, so back to the YouTube thing. I want to say that when you're on, Jen, you probably experienced this as a creator yourself. When you're on fire, you feel like you can literally put out anything and everything works. Like, this isn't even hard. Like,
yes.
I figured the YouTube thing out.
Yes.
And then out of nowhere, you'll put something out. It's a 9 of 10 or a 10 of 10. And then you're like, you forget anything. I don't know how YouTube works anymore. It hates me. It hates me. It hates me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that what might be uncommon knowledge is that a lot of the creators we work with that are large creators don't know why they've had the success they've had. A lot of it, I don't want to say falls into their lap because they're consciously making choices that align in a way that work out really well. So they're obviously choosing the video ideas, the titles, the thumbnails, but they are somehow aligned in a sense naturally that is checking these boxes of strategy. And then, like you said, Travis, they stop doing it. They put out a video that's, I don't even know what a good example is, baking cake. Bake a cake with me video.
Don't hate on my cake baking videos.
And then it doesn't do well. And then they kind of lose their flow. They lose everything that they've been kind of doing nonchalantly, and they start to overthink things. And they start to make decisions that are trying to get those views back. And then they come in, they're like, yeah, I don't know why I have so many videos with millions of hits, and then these have just thousands.
Right.
And then we look at it, we're like, oh, that's easy.
Yeah, it's really easy.
That's a no-brainer.
But it's easy
Why
because...
are you over here making cake videos?
Hello. You should be making them candy corn videos. It's really obvious to us because when you are separated from the feelings and the emotions of the video that you made, all that time you put in, and you're just looking at it rationally and kind of objectively, sometimes those things stand out very strongly. When you're in it, when you're in the thick of it, you're fighting this quote algorithm. You're fighting for your creative vision. And when it doesn't hit, it feels like an attack on you personally at times. And that's why people will immediately say something like, well, YouTube hates me, or I'm shadow banned, or whatever the case may be. They'll say all these things, these words, to take the feeling of maybe not failure, but something very close to that, and offset it and go, it's not me, it's them.
Yes.
Sometimes, but I would say it's kind of rare, you're correct. It is, quote, them, whatever that means. But most of the time,
it happens. Yeah.
Most of the time, it's us.
Most of the time, it's definitely us. My favorite is like a chart that it's a chart. We didn't get it. It's like a screenshot that I took from Vid Summit last year.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like a trail. I think it was from Patty's talk. And it like started with, actually, I can pull it up. Do you want a screen share it on this?
Yeah, we can if you want to pull it up. For those that are watching on YouTube.
Let me find it real quick. I was like, obviously, we don't prepare for anything on this podcast.
Well, why would we? I mean, 5 minutes before this, we were trying to figure out what we were going to talk about. So,
Oh, my gosh. This is my favorite one that I send to creators. The real funny thing is going to be, can I figure out how to screen share?
I think it's a button at the bottom. I know it is on my screen.
I think the funnier thing is that will I ever learn how to use Discord?
Never.
Never.
You should, though. By the way, as a little plug, we've both been in there and we see people chatting over there. There's a link in the description and the show notes. If you have vidIQ Boost or above, like one-on-one coaching, you have access to a special Discord that Jen and I are in, and a couple other creators and a couple other listeners. We'd love to chat with you during the week. Here it is. I see it. I love this. Here we go. Let's read this.
Right? This is exactly what we're talking about.
So for the people who are listening in audio, basically what we're seeing here is a picture with like a diagram of like what works and what doesn't. So the very top left says the video flops. So the next thing to think of is, was it an idea issue? If the answer is yes, then audience is the explanation, right? But let's say your idea is not the problem. You click no, and the next one is it a packaging issue, which means like title and thumbnail. If the answer is yes, then, of course, it's the audience explanation. If it's not the packaging issue, is it a retention issue? If the answer is yes, then it's the audience explanation, right?
This is so much funnier reading it out loud.
But if it's not a retention issue, maybe it's an external issue. And if that's the case, then yes, it's an audience explanation. But if it's no, you got to dig deeper.
Dig deeper.
9 times out of 10, there's an audience explanation. That's a great screen. I forgot all about that.
If you end up at dig deeper, you have my permission to blame YouTube.
Sure.
You have my permission. The idea was good. The packaging was good. The retention was good. Okay, well then maybe you blame YouTube.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
You can't just say those are good. They have to actually be good.
Right. They have to. Yeah.
Like,
yes.
There has to be a one-step level checklist that is happening here, because of course you think it was good. You made it.
Of course.
And you published it. And you decided on it. And you worked really hard on it. Me, I'm looking down this and I'm like, no.
I gotta dig deeper because it's not
dig deeper. I'm emailing YouTube.
And we also got to remember that we're talking to a lot of people who are, and some of the emails we've gotten are people who haven't even started their channel yet. So they're looking at this going, okay, well, what does that mean? And I remember before I started YouTube, my conceptions of what these things meant. I definitely remember a specific thought when I would listen to a YouTuber talk about that they're not getting many views and stuff. And I kept thinking, well, you have like 10,000 subscribers or 50,000 subscribers, whatever. Like, you get a lot of views from that, but you don't. That's not a guarantee of anything. Once you get into it, you're like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. That means exactly zero.
That's true.
So
and then we come back to this audience thing. So let's go into more detail. So you're using this graph or whatever, this chart, and then it goes back to the audience. What does that mean? What do we do then? What does that mean?
So you need to understand the audience that's coming to your channel, which isn't always the one that you think is coming to your channel. That takes a diving of the metrics if you understand how to do that. And I feel like whenever I'm coaching a YouTuber, no matter what the size, by the way, as a matter of fact, I have one coming up with like a 7 million subscriber channel in like a week or so. And they lean on me for understanding their audience and how it swings from time to time. So again, sometimes even if you are, quote, successful, doesn't mean you always have it locked down. You need a fresh pair of eyes all the time. But if you don't have that opportunity, you can't do that for whatever reason, then you need to become an expert. In the same way, you need to become an expert at making a thumbnail, a title, a video editor, a producer, director, talent, voiceover. Like, you still need to be an expert in those things. But this is another thing you got to put on top of it, which is understanding your analytics and who your audience is. Now, some of that could be your comment section. You can get kind of an idea of what type of people are watching just by listening and reading your comments. But the other part has to do with like geography of where people you're getting views from, the age groups, and then also what other videos they're watching. And that will help kind of make that, quote, avatar of a viewer, which I'm just now realizing vidIQ should make plugin for to do that for you.
Ooh, love that. I love when I like end up taking notes during these podcasts. I took another note during this podcast.
Did you really?
It's completely unrelated, so I won't share it.
Okay.
I mean, I can share it, but I was like, what if we did? I'm a big reader. Fun fact. And then at the end of the year, all of like the Goodreads, which is like an app to track your books.
Yeah, Goodreads, yeah.
They all do like employee favorite books. Like they all have ranking. And I'm like, why are we not ranking our favorite YouTube videos of the year?
Oh, like at the end of the year? That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, you already know my number one of all time, but that's not from this year.
No,
Yeah.
No, Travis.
For the year, right?
No, yes, the year.
I have
Keep
to
it
go
in
back
line.
to my watch history.
Keep it in line.
All right, I can try to do that. That's a good idea. We also do our question of the year, too. Who had the best question of the year from all of our podcast episodes?
So that would be a good addition for the audience there. But I will say the analytics you're talking about are like, oh, God, I don't want to like say my favorite analytics because that's a really big claim. But those are some of my favorite analytics. When you can check, I like love pivoting a channel with a creator and then checking as their audience is actually switching over. Content your audience is watching, channels suggesting. That is like the best checklist ever. The second that you're pivoting a channel and you get that really, really relevant creator in the niche that you're trying to like break into, it's just like you did it. I'm
actually gonna pitch something. I'm gonna
We're
find
here,
out
baby.
Yeah, because the thing is when you have someone like Jenn or I who do this for a living and we can read that stuff and tell you exactly who's watching your videos, that's easy for us because we do it every day. But for someone who's listening to this podcast, and especially some of the newer people, they're like, well, I don't even understand how to put all those things together. It is difficult. It's an obstacle that makes it difficult to understand. And you go, well, then how do some of these other people do it? Well, the weird thing is some people are just naturally gifted at doing this without having to look at the analytics, and they just have the personality and the topics, and it just works. Like they just know how to do it, so they don't even look at analytics. Tons of popular channels don't even look at analytics. And that's fine, but the analytics are there for people who need a little bit of extra insight, and it's not a bad thing. But it also doesn't guarantee that you will find success just by following the analytics, but it is a tool in the tool set that you need to understand, like who is engaging with your stuff. So that's who your audience is. So that kind of goes back to that chart you were talking about. So if you made this video and you think the packaging was good, but you look at your analytics and you go, I did kind of a boomer thumbnail, but my audience is like 18. Like, maybe that had something to do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a great way to just check. Like, just see, like, you have the information. I would advise people to not let it, like, dictate your life. Been there, guilty.
Yeah.
Don't hang out in your analytics too long.
Yeah, it can be a deep hole of despair and depression.
Yeah, like, you think the answer is always in there. Like, it's gotta be.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not, though. That's
yeah,
true.
Exactly. But it's a great way to just check on things and see how it's going, depending on what you're working at. Looking at every analytic for every video is not necessary. I don't think so.
Yeah, no, it's not. It depends on what you're doing. If you're doing a new series, it's good to do that to understand if the series is working. But like if you're just doing kind of, I don't want to say random things, 'cause, if I say that, people might take that wrong. But if you're just doing normal content and it's not part of a specific new series or anything, you don't really have to do that. It's good to know like the click-through rate and if you got the kind of the hook and everything right. And your retention's always good to look at because storytelling is so important. And I love retention graphs, so I'll sit there all day helping someone with their retention graph. But by the same token, you're a creator, and at some point you have to have a gut feeling if you know something's going to work or not. And 9 times, well, maybe not 9 times, but at least 8 times out of 10, when you're about to make a video, you generally speaking know if it's going to do well. Like, like this one always does well. Like, you kind of know, right? Every once in a while you go, this one's going to do well. And it does, and you're like, wait a minute, what happened?
Yep.
Still kind of, that's the edge case. Doesn't happen all the time. Usually a couple times a year, it'll be like, this is a banger, works every time, and then it didn't work, and it's like, I don't understand what happened. I just fell off. No, you didn't fall off. It's YouTube. Sometimes YouTube be YouTubing.
At the end of the day, we only have so much control, and then YouTube comes and they're like, gotcha.
So let's talk a little bit about like the sentiment of like YouTube quote hating / what is it, shadow banning. And we talked about this in the Mythbuster episode, and I just want to make it clear to people who didn't hear some of that stuff, which is it makes very little sense if the idea behind like a shadow ban or now I'm not talking about restricted. So I separate these things out because there are restricted modes, and those are things that YouTube tells you if things are restricted in a certain way. That is a thing. Okay.
That is a thing.
Yeah. 18 and older, stuff like that. That stuff works. I mean, that stuff happens. I mean, that's a thing.
It doesn't stop your content from surfacing, though. There is a very big difference. It doesn't mean like restricted from YouTube. It means restricted from places where it would be inappropriate to watch.
Usually
like
ages.
A public library.
Right. Exactly.
A school.
Exactly.
And places that have that filter on for a reason. But it's not being like, oh, no. This is so bad. We are not going to show this restricted.
So, what I'm talking about for shadow banning is this kind of boogie monster thing you read on the internet that like YouTube just won't show your stuff because it hates your channel. Let me just explain why that makes zero rational sense. YouTube is a business. Every time you upload something to it, it's costing YouTube money to house that video because they have to have storage for it. And it costs YouTube money to show that content to anyone else. Streams and stuff, they're not free to them. It makes sense for YouTube that if they're going to A, host your video, which costs them money, to B, show that video to make that money back from advertisers. Like that's just plain straight business. It makes zero sense for them to store a bunch of videos and never show it to anyone purposefully just to spite you because it actually costs them money. It would make more sense, and they can do this, to just not let you upload a video in the first place, which they can do. They can ban you. So if you're like, quote, shadow banned, I don't think you're really shadow banned. There's something else going on. There might be a restriction or something like that. But shadow banning implies that YouTube's suppressing your stuff on purpose so that no one ever sees it. But that's ridiculous. They would just not let you upload it in the first place. Now, something in the news recently came out that Joe Rogan had a podcast with President Trump, and that apparently it wasn't able to be found in YouTube search initially. There was a bug, and this is rare that this happens, but YouTube actually came out and said that this was a bug. They fixed it, and moving forward. Huge conspiracy across the internet. Oh, you couldn't search for it. You couldn't find it. You couldn't search for it, as if it was being suppressed on purpose. Let me go back to what I just said. First of all, if they were actively trying to do that, they would not come out publicly and say, it's a bug, we fixed it. They just want to keep doing it. Number two, they can literally block it from everywhere. If you've ever uploaded content with copyrighted content, you will know YouTube can block that video everywhere, and they tell you they block it. The quote purpose of shadow banning is to allow the person to upload something to their servers, again, costing them money, and then not showing it to anybody. There's no logical sense behind that. There's no reason YouTube would do that. They would just not allow you to upload in the first place. So get that out of your mind as a small creator. Are there weird instances where strange things have happened? Yes, absolutely. I will acknowledge that. But you as a small creator are not being shadow banned. They don't know who you are. You might have something weird going on, but again, the idea of malicious shadow banning is not happening to you. It's just not. It's not. Something else weird might be going on. So that's the YouTube hates me thing.
I love it.
And I will not hear anything else about that. It's
if you had like a judge, what is it? A gavel? A gravel?
Yep. Gavel.
Gavel?
Gravel's out on your parkway, your driveway. That's what that is. That's what you drive over.
If you had your gavel on the gravel, you could just be banging it right now.
You'd be banging it. I'd be dropping the mic, but my mic is attached to it.
I was going to say, you can't drop your mic, so we have to take this in another direction.
It's on a mic stand.
You're like plugged up everywhere. That would be a nightmare.
We've given a lot of value, so I'm going to be a little bit stingy here because we actually got, it was weird. I do want to talk about a comment that we got on the YouTube channel. I figure at this point, if you've listened, you've probably got a lot of information. So I wanted to front load this episode with a lot of information, and we're going to have a little fun talk here for a second or two. We actually got a comment from someone at one point. I think it was last week. They were like, why don't you guys stop laughing? It's annoying, and I don't understand. You're not talking about anything, right?
Oh, and, we're annoying?
Well, here's the funny thing.
I'm annoying, but...
I'm sure I am too. But here's what's funny. They were upset that like the title of it happens later in the episode. They didn't know that. I didn't see the timestamps. I didn't do that on purpose. I picked the most interesting part of the podcast and named it that. It just so happens it happened later in the podcast. I didn't know that when we recorded it. Now, sometimes I pick whatever, if the most interesting thing happens in the first 5 minutes, and then that's what the name of the podcast is. That's how you got to do it. Again, you have to name things interesting, right? So what I found interesting was you could see as the person watched more and more, they end up liking the episode. Did they
update their were they editing their comment?
Yeah, no, they added new comments. They added new comments, which at first was like, I don't know, I hate this, blah blah blah, to like, okay, yeah, you guys didn't have to, and I actually did start watching more of it and like it, and so this happens, and I'm okay with it because regardless, like the people who listen and stuff, especially people that are listening this far in, are pretty locked in. And I just want you to know that we do things differently because it's different, and I feel, and Jen I think feels the same way, that there is a group of people out there that want to have these conversations in a much more casual way where we're not like talking at you, we're talking with you. And with that, sometimes we share little side anecdotes and just funny little things. And if you read the comments, enough people are engaging with that stuff that people are interested. If people weren't interested in things like candy corn, we wouldn't be getting emails. I have like 6 emails in my inbox right now talking about candy corn and Cadbury eggs.
This is a candy podcast also. I know we can't 100%. officially say that. Do you want to know the trouble I got myself into? This is why I was late this morning.
What?
I have a tiny ant infestation because I have been unknowingly, that's not true, knowingly keeping candy in all of my purses. And then this morning, and like they're kind of like stacked behind me on this shelf, and then there was like tiny, like the tiniest little ants I've ever seen, just like all over my shelf. And then I was like, what is going on? My husband's like, what is going on? And we opened my purses, and there's just candy.
What?
And the ants just eating the candy.
Gross. Wait, what kind of candy do you have in your purse that's a thing?
I always keep Dum-Dums.
Jen.
I like my purse. I literally just carry a purse so that I have chapstick and lollipops. You never know.
Wait, okay, hold on. Let me understand something for a second, because so for people who are out, because we get people overseas who listen to this podcast, Dum-Dums are a brand of lollipop. They are wrapped So I'm still confused as to how the ants would even know, because they're not like open and.
I guess they're not wrapped that tight.
I mean, okay.
There was like I had to take one in the bathroom in the sink, and like 20 ants fell out of like the mini ones too, like the mini ones.
What?
Yeah, like the pack like you get in like 100 mini dum dums. Yeah,
bro, I'm putting that on the thumbnail. Dum dums with ants on it in the corner.
It's literally I mean, it is like a candy podcast, and I felt like this was an appropriate, disgusting update.
What?
No shame. Everyone, stop keeping candy in your purses.
Okay, I'm gonna let me get rid of the candy in my purse. What the
Travis,
heck is
go
going
empty
on?
your purses. Like,
you can't tell me how to live my life. Let me.
You can't tell me how to live my life.
I don't know how else to end this podcast episode other than make sure you ain't got no candy in your purses, I guess. What is happening?
That's why I was late for the podcast this morning.
That is insane. You all see what I have to put up with? All right, look, that's enough. We appreciate you listening. Of course, it's a little bit shorter episode, but we want to try something every once in a while where we dig into a particular subject a little bit more deeply. But don't worry, your questions are in, and we're going to answer them. I see them. Don't worry, we'll get to them. But I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, leave us a comment below on the YouTube channel, or send us a message, theboost@vidIQ.com, or if you're listening to audio, there's the text message thing. And drop by our Discord. Links in the description and in the show notes, where you can join us and chat with us during the week. Jen, you need to get a new purse, I think, now, right? You got to basically bleach that thing out? Or?
I mean, Travis, if I have to. I mean, I'm using Travis now.
Christmas
Travis
right
said
around
I
the
have
corner.
to get a new purse.
Black Friday right around the corner. I mean, listen, it is what it is. All right, y'all. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the next one.